Good morning, the Dean Faculty of Nursing Science, the HOD, the lecturers and students here present. I'm Sanusi Adeola Taiwo. I'll be presenting the topic substance abuse, the silent struggle. These are my learning outcomes. By the end of the seminar, participants should be able to understand what substance abuse is, identify influencing factors and causes of substance abuse, recognize why substance abuse is a silent struggle, understand the prevention and intervention strategies. These are the outlines. We have the introduction, what is substance abuse, types of substance abuse, influencing factors and causes, consequences of substance abuse, why substance abuse is a silent struggle, prevention and intervention strategies, nursing implications, and conclusion. This is the introduction. Substance abuse is a growing concern which poses serious health risk to health, academic performance, and overall well-being. Basically, substance abuse is what adolescents tend to indulge in, and it tends to affect their health and also their lifestyles too. Hence, the understanding the complexity of this issue is very, very pivotal to developing effective intervention. This is by WHO 2029. Prevalence. Globally, 275 million persons worldwide aged between 15 and 64 years old uses drugs at least once. They have at least within that age group, they have used drugs at least once. While 12% of this age group in the sub-Saharan African had used all forms of illicit drugs. This is by African Union on Drugs in 2029 and 2019. While in Nigeria, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency in 2018 reported 14.4% of population aged 15 to 64 years that had used drugs at least once. Considering this is it's a larger population, higher than what the global perspective, what the global prevalence of substance abuse is. So what is substance abuse? Substance abuse, which is also known as substance abuse disorder, is a very complex condition which is characterized by recurrent use of alcohol, drugs, other psychoactive substances in ways that lead to significant impairment or distress amongst the youth. This is stated by WHO. And there are a lot of commonly used drugs amongst the adolescents. And these commonly used drugs are thus, we have alcohol, the street name, which is also known as, would be called stew, paraga, shepe, all of you amongst the adolescents. Then we have the cannabis, also known as marijuana. Locally and on the streets, when it's being purchased, it's called either weed, pot. Some of them call it local, some call it grass, jane, ganja. These are locally named local names which are given to all these abused substances. Cocaine on the streets is named crack, antinora, Charlie, while we have inhalants, which is named or called popper, snappers, whippets, puffs. Then sedatives and tranquilizers, examples of which are benzodiazepines, for example, Xanax, Valium. This is called downers, benzos, bars, xannies, amongst the street people. Then we have electronic cigarettes, which is vaping. It's called the e-cigarette, e-cigs, or vapes. This electronic vaping is something that is very, very common amongst the youth now. That even when adolescents or young adults are smoking this, it is something that you cannot know that they are smoking. What are the factors and causes of substance abuse amongst adolescents? We have the social factor. The social factor, which are peer pressure. Peer pressure is very, very, very germane amongst the adolescents, because A lot of adolescents who does not even want to smoke at all. But when they have their friends smoking, all they need to do is just to tell them, why don't you try it? It makes you feel high, you feel cool within yourself. At least that's the language they use amongst themselves. And before the adolescent knows what he or she is doing, they succumb to the pressure from their peers. Then we have family influence. The family dynamics of which an individual, of which the adolescent comes from, also plays a very, very germane role in causing, acting as a cause or factor to the child. Because a child who comes from an unstable family, probably a single parent who is not properly monitored, or even in a family whereby the father or the mother, they are into this substance abuse, they see their parents, either the mother or the father, drinking or smoking. Such child definitely will be susceptible to smoking or taking any of these illicit substance abuse. Then socio-economic factor. It is observed that majority of the adolescents that are from the low economic level are found due to the fact that they are lacking finances. They succumb to most of these things. They run errands for either the rich or those that they know that they will be able to get money from peddling these drugs. So the socio-economic factor is also a factor into which makes the adolescent to fall prey into using of substance abuse. Psychological factors. We have the mental health disorders. Adolescents with mental health disorders such as depression, anxiety, they are prone to being they are prone or vulnerable to substance abuse. Then low self-esteem. And a young adolescent who has low self-esteem also has a tendency of being vulnerable to substance abuse. Environmental factors. The availability and accessibility. When when substance abuse is easily available in the community of which the adolescent gets access to it, they tend to become vulnerable to this substance abuse. Then community and neighborhood. In respect of community and neighborhood, the environment or the neighborhood, the community where the child or the young adolescent is residing, if it's a community whereby they have access to this substance abuse, the young individual tends to be vulnerable to the use of this substance abuse. Then media influence. Talking about media influence, this is becoming one of the major reasons why a lot of adolescents are succumbing to substance abuse presently, because we see a lot of maybe actors, musicians, of which they tend to portray uses of alcohol, cigarette smoking, even cocaine and marijuana. They tend to push it and make it look as if it is a norm which should be done, which should be done amongst people within the society, of which the media is not frowning at, but they are still projecting this image as being positive, and this tends to have negative influence on the young adolescent. Then cultural norms. The cultural norms of each individual quite varies. But in a culture whereby they encourage the young ones to take alcohol, that okay, now you are of age, we need to initiate you into the use of drugs, the use of weed, so that you then it can be shown that yes, you have actually you are now a matured adult. So these are part of the environmental factors that affect substance abuse among the adolescent. Then the genetic factor. The genetic predisposition is also germane in the sense that the genetic composition of each individual differs. And this is part of what makes it either when the individual takes this substance abuse tends to make them susceptible. Then biological responses. Our body generally quite differs from one person to the other. By the time an individual takes a substance, his or her reactions to it then tends to differ. So the biological responses of individuals also is part of the factors that makes the adolescents to take substances. Now, what are the consequences of the substance abuse amongst adolescents' health and well-being? Well, the physical health consequences. The moment an adolescent starts taking them, we have a lot of chronic health issues that tends to arise. There is issue of liver damage, kidney. Then we have an increased risk of injury. We have a lot of, the moment an individual is taking drugs, it exposes them to a lot of injuries. Talking about accidents, an adolescent that is high on drugs would do a lot of reckless driving, which exposes him or her to a lot of injuries, and also the general populace in the society. They tend to expose them to all these risks. Mental health consequences. The moment an adolescent starts taking this, the aftermath will have mental breakdown. A lot of psychotic disorders developing. Then cognitive impairment. The adolescent who is already on drugs will not be able to think straight. You see them, they won't be able to process thoughts on their own. They are dormant basically in their thinking. Then social and behavioral consequences. There is academic decline because a lot of them will not be focused. Their mindsets and their mindset and thinking tends to be at disarray, of which they won't be able to concentrate to focus on their academics. And also there is behavioral problems. The moment they start taking these drugs, they have a lot of, some become so aggressive in their attitude. They don't conform with the norms, with the societal norm. You see them a lot of time misbehaving. You see them talking as thugs and all that have you. Then what are the long-term consequences? We talk about addiction and dependency. A lot of them, the moment they've started using these drugs, they become addicted to it. They can't do without it. They then become dependent. They do everything within their capacity to ensure that they still get these drugs. Even some it gets so bad that a lot of them even go as far as maybe selling their parents' properties in order to ensure that they get these substances available. Then there is an interpersonal relationship strain. Because of the fact that a lot of these consequences are taking place, it affects their relationship between themselves, their peers, their parents, every family members, and even the society at large. As you can see from this image or picture that you have here, you see the young man that is already that is smoking, or who's supposed to be in school. You can see the colleagues are going into school, but he is there smoking, leaving his own books, abandoning the books, but high on drugs here. Then, why then is substance abuse a silent struggle amongst adolescents? We talk about stigma and shame. Social stigma. Because the movement, the society, or members within their community, which they reside in, already identifies them as being individuals that abuses substance. The society tends to target them. That, oh, that individual, that child is always high on drugs. Please avoid him. A lot of people then in the society where they reside, they tend to neglect and ignore them. Then self-stigma, even within the adolescent, he or she now sees that now I have been tagged as an individual who is always on drugs. They tend to like, then I won't be accepted in the society, of which all this tends to give them psychological trauma, and they tend to withdraw because of the shame and stigma attached to this. The lack of awareness and education, misunderstanding of risks. A lot of times, adolescent does not have an understanding of the risk involved when they take all these substances. They don't know that it goes beyond being high or feeling cool within that period. So because they don't really understand the risk of the aftermath of coming down of using these drugs, that they will have a lot of issues that could arise. So this makes it a lot of problem. Then limited access to information, because they are limited to the information about these drugs and substances that they have used. This makes it a silence. This makes it a struggle within them. Then psychological factor, coping mechanism. A lot of adolescents are not they cannot cope with the aftermath of these substances that they are with them, peer pressure. It's also a very, very germane reason, because within them they feel that, I use the slang that they use amongst them, that they don't belong. The moment they see that, the moment that they are not on drugs, their peers sees them that, they are not part of them, they don't belong to their group. So all this gives them psychological traumas. Then insufficient support system. We have the inadequate counseling services, because generally we don't have adequate counseling services for the adolescent. Though the government is trying as much as possible to incorporate it into the care of adolescents, of which it's been established here and in some facilities, but it is not generalized. So there is inadequate counseling services, of which the adolescents can walk into to receive counseling about the problem, the present problem that they are facing. Family dynamics. This is very, very important, in the sense that a child who comes from a home that is not settled would want to, like, okay, I want to go out of my home to avoid the family problems, maybe fights between the parents. So the kind of family settings that the adolescent comes from also is part of the reason that the adolescents, they continue to go deeper and deeper into the abuse of drugs and other substances. Then fear of consequences. The adolescents tend to fear the academic and legal repercussion. Some of them, the moment they see that their academic performance is dwindling, they within them, they can't open up to anyone. They continue to struggle, and the academic performance can also continue to decline. Then the legal repercussions as well. There is a lot of crime rates. The crime rate of that adolescent tends to increase. There is the fear of, am I going to be caught? Am I going to face the law because of the crimes which is affected with this use of with this use of drugs? Then parental reactions. Adolescents also fear the fact that, what will my parents say? How would my parents react? What would they do the moment they realize that I am into drugs? Socio-economic factor, the economic advantage. Adolescents from very poor backgrounds tend to get exposed to the use of substances, and this tends to, because of the financial constraints they have, they tend to expose them. They act as peddlers, even for those that are selling these drugs, of which within them they still find it as a challenge. Then community environment, the environment the adolescent lives in also tends to have effects on them. Then what are the prevention and intervention strategies for adolescent substance abuse? Prevention strategies, we talk about education and awareness program. This should be there should be adequate education and awareness program, which involves the risk, the consequences, of which the adolescents will be taught and educated on what are the disadvantages, what are the consequences, what are the risks involved in them taking these substances. Family-based prevention. Family will be involved in the care of the adolescents. Then community programs. The community as large will also be involved in the substance abuse programs for adolescents. What then are the intervention strategies There will be early identification and screening of the adolescents who has these issues. Counseling and therapy sessions will be held for them. Then school-based interventions as well, of which the school will be involved in this kind of program. Health services and rehabilitation, the health sector and rehabilitation programs will be put in place in order to ensure that this program sees the right of it. Policy and regulation, legal and policy frameworks. This will be put in place in order to embrace substance abuse programs amongst adolescents. Then public health campaigns in order to create an healthcare awareness in respect of substances use amongst adolescents. What are the nursing implications? Assessment and early detection. Screening and monitoring of the adolescents that have been identified will be done. There will be comprehensive assessment of those adolescents. Then health education and promotion. There will be patient and family education, which is very, very important. Then community outreach in order to involve the community at large. Then intervention and counseling. Individuals and group counseling will be done. Then support group. The adolescents will be introduced to groups that are also having such cases. Coordination of care, multidisciplinary approach. The nurse ensures that it is not only the nurses that cares for the adolescent, but involving all the healthcare team in order to ensure that there is an holistic care for the patient and or adolescent. Then case management. The cases will be treated individually and not as a general case. So, in conclusion, substance abuse amongst adolescents is a critical public health issue that requires urgent attention. Hence, addressing the underlying factors and providing adequate support can help young people overcome this silent struggle, which will lead to healthier and substance-free lives. These are my references. Thank you.